Krishna. We have Shivani Mataji today, or I can get started. Okay. Hare Krishna, dear devotees. Welcome to Bhakti Sangha Japa conference call. Thank you all so much for joining us today. Today, we will be continuing our study of Nectar of Devotion. And in Nectar of Devotion, thank you, Mataji. In Nectar of Devotion, we will be covering chapter 5 today. Before that, I will read Srila Prabhupada's quote for the day. Prabhupada quote on 27 February. Prabhupada quote on 27 February says, sometimes when Radharani would go out, Krishna would attack her, and when she would fall down, Krishna, don't torture me that way, she would say. They would fall down and Krishna would take the opportunity to kiss her. Radharani was very, very pleased, but superficially, Krishna was the greatest rascal. Unless rascaldom is in Krishna, how can rascaldom be existent in the world? Our formula of God is that He's the source of everything, but His rascaldom is so nice that everyone worships His rascaldom. That was Srila Prabhupada glorifying Krishna and Srimati Radharani. So we'll get started with the prayers, and I hope my screen is visible and I'm projecting the right content. Yes, okay. Om Ajnanatimirandhasya Jnananjana-shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Mukam Karoti Vachalam Pangum Langayate Girim Yadkripatamaham Vande Shri Gurum Deenatarinam Paramanandamadavam Krishna Chaitanya Vishwaram Namam Vishnupadaya Krishna Presthaya Bhutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvisesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. My humble obeisances to all the Vaishnavas on the call. Please bless me so that I may be able to speak something useful. Vanchakalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhyevacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo. So today we are doing Nectar of Devotion. We are continuing our series on Nectar of Devotion, and today's content is chapter 5. Chapter 5 is titled The Purity of Devotional Service. So in the previous chapter, in chapter number 4, we saw about how devotion surpasses even liberation. That was the content that we discussed in chapter number 4, that this mukti and all, it is nothing when compared to devotional service. So that was covered in chapter number 4. But however, in chapter number 3, we saw some qualifications to begin devotional service. That is what we did. We saw some qualifications to begin devotional service, eligibility of a candidate to accept devotional service. That was the topic. Now, we have seen some qualifications in chapter 3. And we also saw that bhakti is definitely surpassing any other great benefit like liberation. But now in this chapter, what we're going to see is how devotional service is actually very, very pure by itself. It is not dependent on any sort of external circumstances. That is, when you're practicing bhakti, when you are in the process of practicing devotional service, don't think that any other qualification has to substantiate devotional service. Devotional service is pure by itself. That is the concept that is discussed in chapter number 5. So we have many processes of self-realization, like you have jnana, you have bhakti, you have dhyana, you have karma. Like that, there are so many yogas, right? Karma yoga, dhyana yoga, Ashtanga yoga, and bhakti yoga. So there are different kinds of yogas. And if you look at the other yogas versus bhakti, what happens in the case of jnana yoga? Is there some sort of prerequisite or some things that has to be there for Jnana Yoga? Is there something that is important, some external circumstances that is required to practice Karma Kanda? Is there some external circumstances that is there to practice Dhyana Yoga? So we'll just quickly take answers. I'll keep it short, but we'll quickly take answers. So let's go with one by one. Is there any external circumstances we are dependent on in practicing Ashtanga Yoga? Anyone can say? And also say the circumstance.
Yes, Mataji.
Yes. Like what?
I think it's Yama, Niyam,
Yes, correct. Yama, Niyama.
Pratyahar, Asana, Pratyahar, Dhyan, Dharana, Samadhi, I think. That's Ashtanga Yoga. Sorry, I'm
Yes.
not naming it in the right sequence, maybe.
No, that's okay. So Ashtanga Yoga basically, like she said, begins with Yama, Niyama and so on. For example, in the stage of like one of the prerequisites is when you have to practice Ashtanga Yoga, you do asana. So
Yes.
some of the prerequisites is the location, how you
Mm.
sit.
And then you have to have control on your senses right up front.
Yes,
In the beginning
yes,
itself, which is
yes.
not there in Bhakti. Bhakti is simpler.
Mm, yes,
Hare
correct,
Krishna
correct.
Master.
Hari Bol. So basically, Prabhupada says it is so difficult that only a very self-controlled person like a sannyasi can truly even start practicing Ashtanga Yoga. Otherwise, it is difficult for the common man. We can't go to the Himalayas, we cannot have rigid rules and regulations. It's going to be very difficult. So Ashtanga Yoga is dependent on external circumstances. It is not independently pure by itself. Okay, you have to strive for purity. Then in Jnana Yoga path also, you have to have, you should be very inclined to dedicate your life to self-realization. You should be completely fixed. That should be the only business. Preferably, if you talk to any smarta sannyasi, they should have some prerequisites like they should be born in a Brahmana family. And they should, to attain mukti through the process of jnana, you should be a sannyasi. Not everybody can attain mukti through the process of jnana, unless you are a sannyasi, unless you are born in a Brahmana family. So, like that, there are prerequisites. Then think about other processes like karma kanda. You know about karma kanda. When we do yajnas, there are so many prerequisites. The ingredients should be very pure. The time should be perfect. The mantra should be chanted perfectly. So it depends on so many external circumstances. But however, bhakti, it is very pure because it is completely independent of any such external circumstances. Therefore, this chapter is titled The Purity of Devotional Service. Okay, by itself, it stands by itself and it is very pure. And as far as prerequisites are concerned, we will discuss two prerequisites that is commonly present in other parts of yoga, and we'll see if it fits bhakti or not. The first prerequisite that is mentioned is about birth. So generally, birth is considered a prerequisite in many, many processes. If one has a low birth, okay, they are not even allowed to become a sannyasi who can practice the path of jnana. We already discussed that. Because according to that rigid practices, it is not possible if the atmosphere or that upbringing is not there. Okay, that Brahminical qualification is not there. But as far as bhakti is concerned, bhakti is completely independent. It cannot be checked by any material circumstances. And Prabhupada, he mentions, like we know how in Srimad Bhagavatam also there is a very famous verse, Kirata Hunandra Pulinda Pulkasha. Anybody who comes from any background can perform devotional service. Srila Prabhupada, he talks about an interesting history in the life of Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur. He says Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, he opposed the caste Goswamis because these caste Goswamis, they claimed a birthright monopoly in devotional service. Think about the examples of Haridas Thakur, or think about the examples of many, many great Vaishnavas who were born in various families and who had the opportunity to do devotional service. Why go that far? Just think about what great birth did Vyasadeva, or I mean, Vyasadeva, of course, okay, but what great birth did Valmiki have, right? What was his qualification? Uh, we have the Alvars in the south. Of them, hardly one or two were Brahmanas. The rest of them, many of them were even outcast. Hmm. They were of the fourth Varna, as we call it, and some were even outcast. So many Param Vaishnavas we can see who have come from various backgrounds, and they have proved that bhakti is not really dependent, sorry, it's not dependent on any sort of birth. So Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, he opposed the caste Goswamis who said only if you're born in a certain caste, you can attain pure devotional service. It is not necessary at all. Okay, so birth is definitely not a prerequisite. And Prabhupada says that during the time of Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati, there was a hard struggle for some time. But then eventually, this devotional service has been correctly established that everybody can take up bhakti. Think about what Prabhupada did. Today, in our ISKCON itself, we have people from various kinds of backgrounds. And this was possible by Srila Prabhupada. Prabhupada, when he started the International Society for Krishna Consciousness, he says, our Krishna consciousness movement in the Western world is based on the above proposition of Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur. On his authority, we are claiming members from all sections of Western countries. So forget the four varnas. Even people who are not within the social framework of the four varnas, even they become eligible to perform devotional service. So the so-called Brahmanas who claim that unless you're born in a Brahminical family, you cannot attain the sacred thread and come to a point of a high-grade Vaishnava, Prabhupada he, and Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati, they smashed that ideology. They said, actually, if you qualify yourself, you can become a Brahmana. And of course, you can surely become a Vaishnava. Hmm? That's why after Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur's time, only Brahmana Diksha became common. Whether you are born in a Brahmin family or not, you're given Diksha into Brahmanism if you are exhibiting the qualities, if you're exhibiting the Brahminical qualities and standards, then you become eligible to become a Brahmin. Okay. But however, you're already a Vaishnava. I mean, because bhakti is universal, it is for everybody. That is, in fact, our constitutional position. We are naturally Krishnera Das, right? Jivera Swarupai Krishnera Nityadas. So naturally, we are Krishna's Das. So bhakti is in our constitution. It is there in our soul's DNA, to call it. Yeah, it is there naturally. So we can receive the sacred thread and we can become a high grade Vaishnava, irrespective of what kind of birth we are in. Okay, Rupa Goswami has proved this through referring to various scriptures. It is not something that Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur and Prabhupada came up with, some concept they came up with, that they are giving Brahmana Diksha to everybody. Actually, it is there in the scriptures. That's what Rupa Goswami is telling. He says that in the Skanda Puran, in the Kashikand portion, it is said, in a country known as Mayuradhwaja, the lower caste people who are considered less than Shudras are also initiated in the Vaishnava cult of devotional service. And when they are properly dressed with tilak on their bodies and beads on their hands and on their necks, they appear to be coming from Vaikuntha. In fact, they look so beautiful that immediately they surpass the ordinary Brahmanas. So anybody can become a Vaishnava. Thus, a Vaishnava is automatically a Brahmana. If you have already become a Vaishnava, what to talk of becoming a Brahmana? If you're already a Vaishnava, you're automatically a Brahmana. So this is also substantiated by Sanatana Goswami in Hari Bhakti Vilas. We all know Hari Bhakti Vilas is the Vaishnava guide, a guidebook for all Vaishnavas, especially with relation to standards, what kind of standards a Vaishnava should practice. So there itself, he has told very, very clearly that if a person is properly initiated into the Vaishnava cult, he automatically becomes a Brahmana, just like how Bell metal becomes gold by a mixture of mercury. We don't know that metallurgical science today, but uh, I remember in one lecture of Tamal Krishna Goswami Maharaj, he was telling they have to drink this bell metal in liquefied form and they have to urinate and then it transforms into gold. But not everybody can do it. You should have very high yogic powers to do it. Okay. So anyway, something has to be done basically to transform this bell metal into gold by a mixture of mercury. Yeah, they drink mercury and they have to. Okay, this might sound a little gross, but this is how it is. They have to, their body should be capable of taking in mercury and they have to urinate on top of bell metal to transform it into gold. Something like this, there is a theory, and some very great yogis who can tolerate this will do it. But we'll die out of mercury poisoning, so we can't try all this. But this is how it is done basically in ancient times. So they can transform bell metal into gold. So just like how bell metal can be transformed into gold, certainly in the Vaishnava, if a person is a Vaishnava, he's automatically capable of being a Brahmana. So a bona fide spiritual master is the one who can do this. It's not that anybody and everybody can suddenly become a Vaishnava and hence qualify to be a Brahmana. It's not like that. Unless one is under the guidance of a bona fide spiritual master, he's under the guidance of authorities to perform bhakti, he is not capable of becoming a Vaishnava or a Brahmana. Okay, so to come to that standard, irrespective of one's birth, one definitely needs a guru. Guru, the bona fide spiritual master, guidance of authorities. Only under such circumstances can anyone become a Vaishnava. And of course, he attains the position of a Brahman. So, Rupa Goswami, he tells us that yes, anybody can become a Brahmana provided you take guidance of a Vaishnava Guru, Brahmana or a Vaishnava, provided you take guidance under a bona fide spiritual master. Now, just because I am initiated by a bona fide spiritual master, have I automatically become a Param Vaishnava? Have I perfected life? Many people think initiation means everything is finished. I achieved my goal. I got initiated. Over. Everything, gatam, everything done. They think like that. But no, initiation means beginning. It is a beginning. Okay. First and foremost thing, we should get initiated by a bona fide spiritual master. And just by accepting this initiation, it's not that your business is finished. What should you do? You should now, henceforth, follow the rules and regulations very carefully. If after accepting the spiritual master and being initiated, we do not follow the required rules and regulations and practice devotional service, we will again become fallen. Sometimes there is, a niyamagraha, Rup Goswami talks about. Sometimes we are so stuck to rules and regulations, we forget practicing devotional service. We are all about the rules, but we don't do bhakti at all. I am so perfect in following every rule, and there is a pride coming out of it, and we forget to perform that basic devotional service. So, yes, one should be vigilant, but more importantly, it is also very, very crucial that one remembers that he is a part and parcel of Krishna. So, as a part and parcel of Krishna, it is his very duty to give service to that whole, who is Krishna. So, we should not forget our constitutional position. We should render devotional service. If we are not rendering devotional service, if we have just taken initiation, if we have just following some 4 5 rules and regulations, does that qualify us to attain perfection? No. Rupa Goswami says no. You didn't practice devotional service sincerely. So, where is the question of getting perfection? So, irrespective of your birth, whoever you may be, yes, you can become qualified. The first step is you take a spiritual master. With a spiritual master, what do? You get initiated. Okay, I got initiation, but is that over? No, initiation means a new beginning. Okay, what should I do? I listen to whatever my spiritual master says. Okay, you set down a few rules and regulations. Is it enough if I follow those? No, it is still not enough. What do you need to do? You need to very, very sincerely execute devotional service as guided by your spiritual master. So, unless we do all of this, we will not come to the position of a high class Brahmana, or we cannot even call ourselves a Vaishnava. Actually, I've heard many sannyasis say the word Vaishnava is actually very high. We're telling, I am Vaishnava, you are Vaishnava. They say, to become a Vaishnava, it is such a high standard. We are all practicing, we are trying, that's all. Have we really attained that? It's a big question mark. Hmm? But we don't give up the practice. We keep aspiring, we keep trying to attain that position of becoming a Vaishnava. That is something that is very, very pertinent at this point in time. Okay. Now, I'm practicing devotional service. Great. So now I know what I should do. I should take initiation. As I should listen to his instructions. I should practice devotional service. Now, what if when I'm practicing devotional service, there is a fall down? Everybody's problem, right? So Rupa Goswami says that if one is regularly discharging devotional service, actually there is no question of fall down. But under certain circumstances, if at all there is a fall down, the Vaishnava doesn't have to do any sort of prayaschitta for purification. In the case of Karma Kanda, for example, if you do not chant a mantra properly, or if one ingredient is missing, or if your bodily condition is not pure enough, you have to perform prayaschitta. If you do not chant certain mantras sufficiently in the right pitch or meter or whatever, for that there is prayaschitta mantras. You have to do prayaschitta for that. Certain prayashchittas, if you don't do that Gayatri for that, they should do 1,008 Gayatris for certain ritualistic ceremonies. If they don't do it properly, they have to fast the entire day. So there are some prayashchittas that is there for different karmakandic activities if they are not able to execute it properly. Like that, prayashchitta is there for all the other processes. But when it comes to devotional service, circumstantial fall down happens. It happens to everybody. Okay, circumstantial fall down. Then, should a Vaishnava do some prayaschitta? That is the question Rupa Goswami is asking. The answer is there is no question of prayaschitta or performances of reformation. Then, what should I do? I simply have to execute the rules and regulations for discharging devotional service, and this is more than enough for my reinstatement. This is the mystery of Vaishnava devotional cult. This is what Rupa Goswami says. It is so mysterious. You don't have to look out for external prayaschitta. Just continue to perform devotional service with more sincerity. Remember, what did you slip off by? What was the cause of your fall down? And try to correct yourself and continue to practice devotional service. By practicing that devotional service, eventually everything will be rectified. Classic example is our what's his name? This Krishna Karnamrita, Bilva Mangala Thakur. Yeah. Bilva Mangala Thakur. Bilva Mangala Thakur had a weakness, right? He had a weakness for the opposite gender. He thought, okay, that is the most important thing. Me being with this lady is the most important. But that lady, she inspired. She became the first guru of Bilva Mangal Thakur. Chintamani, right? She said, why are you wasting your time like this? Why don't you concentrate on Krishna? He took it very seriously, but that weakness didn't go out of him. Later, when he saw another woman, the same weakness crept up. And he wanted to ask for the Brahmana's wife. But he continued to practice devotional service. See, throughout he was practicing devotional service, but those desires that is there in the heart, they keep creeping up. And there is chance for fall down again and again. But just because there is chance for fall down, he didn't stop doing devotional service. At one point, he became so disgusted with himself that when he asked for the Brahmin's wife, he voluntarily took off his eyes. He took the hairpin of that lady and voluntarily took off his eyes. And then He continued to do devotional service. He didn't stop there. What was the prayaschitta he did? He continued to do devotional service. That's all. He continued and he continued and he continued and he sang for Krishna. And finally, Krishna himself gave Bilvamangal Thakur audience. Right? So that is the mystery of the Vaishnava cult. So practically, there are three processes for elevating oneself to the platform of spiritual consciousness. What are the three processes? You have Karma Kanda, Jnana Kanda, and the process of Bhakti. Ritualistic performances are in the field of karma, speculative processes are in the field of jnana, and one who has taken to bhakti, which is the devotional service of the Lord, we don't have to do anything to do with karma or jnana. Bhakti is completely independent, whereas the other processes are dependent on bhakti. Many of the other processes consider bhakti to be their stepping stone. But however, as far as bhakti is concerned, it is completely pure and it is also not dependent on processes like karma or jnana. So basically, devotional service is practiced without any tinge of karma or jnana. That was the definition of pure devotional service. Jnana karmadi anavratam, right? So this bhakti should be practiced even if there is a slight slip, some small fall down. Don't worry. Continue to practice bhakti. Remember, bhakti is all pure. Bhakti is also all independent. It is not dependent on jnana or karma in any way. This is the power of now, there is another point that is being discussed by we saw purity. Purity, although other processes they have some prerequisite. Purity is not a factor in determining your eligibility to perform devotional service, and we saw this in great detail. Okay. The next point is Varnashrama Dharma a key deciding factor in practicing devotional service? We saw bhakti is not dependent on purity. Bhakti is not dependent on karma or jnana or other process. Bhakti is independently pure by itself. Then, will it really be dependent on Varnashrama Dharma? Let's see. So, in some processes, first you should become purified in your varna and ashram, and then you can practice that particular process, like jnana. We already saw about jnana. In jnana yoga, first you should become pure. You should become a sannyasi. You should become a pure brahmana. Then you will become qualified to practice jnana. So these are some basic prerequisites. But then Rupa Goswami says, as far as bhakti is concerned, you really do not have to attain perfection in your varnashram to start bhakti or to practice bhakti. So let's see. He quotes various verses from different places in scripture and he tells from Srimad Bhagavatam how this bhakti is not really dependent on purity in Varna and Ashram. So this is 11th canto, 21st chapter, verse number 2. Uddhava, Krishna tells to Uddhava, the distinction between qualification and disqualification may be made in this way. Persons who are already elevated and discharging devotional service will never again take shelter of the process of fruitive activity or philosophical position. If one sticks to devotional service, and is conducted by regulative principles given by the authorities and acharyas, that itself is an enough basic qualification. So this is confirmed in Srimad Bhagavatam that you need not depend on karma or jnana, and just listening to the instructions and the regulative principles of the authorities and the acharyas is sufficient qualification. You need not depend even on your varnashrama. He continues to explain. There is a statement in Srimad Bhagavatam in the first canto, 5th chapter, verse number 17. Even if one does not execute his occupational duty, varnashram, but immediately takes direct shelter at the lotus feet of Lord Hari, There is no fault on his part, and in all circumstances, his position is secure. Even by bad association, if he falls down by executing devotional service, or if he doesn't finish the complete course of devotional service and he dies untimely, still he is not at a loss. A person who's simply discharging his occupational duties, on the other hand, according to his varna and ashram, without remembering Krishna, without any Krishna consciousness, does not practically have any gain or a true benefit in human life. So basically, the purport is that all conditioned souls who are engaged in all the activities that we are doing in our varna and ashram for sense gratification, without knowing the process of bhakti, we cannot get out of any sort of material contamination. And what do we get? We only get repeated birth and death. That is the only thing we keep getting over and over. If we are not taking up to devotional service, but if we are practicing our Varna Ashram very, very strictly. Hmm. There are other verses, like for example, fifth canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. Rishabh Dev tells his sons, his 100 sons, he tells, persons engaged in fruitive activities are repeatedly accepting birth and death. Until they develop a feeling for Lord Vasudeva, there is no question of them getting out of the stringent laws of material nature. So, such person who's very seriously engaged in occupational duties in Varna and Ashram and who's not developing love for Krishna, he is understood to just be spoiling his human form of life. Actually, all these verses are quoted by Srila Rupa Goswami. The Sanskrit is also there. We can even read the Sanskrit if needed. These are quite famous verses, especially the first two verses that we discussed. Tyaktva swadharmam charanam bhujem hare bhajan apakko atapate tato yadi yatra kwa va bhadram abhud amushakyam koyarta anto bhajatam swadharmataha. These are famous verses. Okay. So you can also see the verse number that Rupa Goswami mentions again in Canto 11, chapter 11, verse 32. He says, my dear Uddhava, Krishna is telling, any person who takes shelter of me in complete surrender and follows my instruction, who gives up all other occupation, is considered to be a first class man. So, even if he has given up all other occupations, but he is fully engaged in devotional service, in Krishna's eyes, he is considered a first class person. And we see repeatedly in many, many Vedic literatures that if simply a person acts in Krishna consciousness, now when we say Krishna consciousness, we should not think, oh, they're talking about me. Here we are talking about a person who's really fully involved in Krishna consciousness and who has no other business other than Krishna consciousness. If such a person is executing his devotional activities in such a way, then he is considered, he's considered a top class Vaishnava, and he doesn't have to care for his occupational duties. So that should be very clear. When the Shastras tell, okay, this person is considered first class, we should not immediately think, oh, that's me. It's not me, because I have so many things going on in my life. Hmm. From Srimad Bhagavatam and other Vedic scriptures, we can learn further that if a person acts in Krishna consciousness and discharges devotional service, he's definitely considered far, far better. He's in a better position than all other persons who are engaged in philanthropic, ethical, moral, altruistic, and social welfare activities. This is also a statement in Srimad Bhagavatam. Now, a devotee is considered who's trying to perfect his life, who's really serious about Krishna consciousness, is definitely far better than any sort of philanthropist or an altruistic person. Again, the point here is not to demean anyone who's doing such activities. The point is, yes, that is great, but how long is it going to last? We are talking about how frivolous this material world is, this life in this material world is. So if we are just catering to the needs of the body, that is not something which lasts for a long time. It is not a permanent thing. Rather, we should look up to souls who cater to the soul. I mean, to the depth for the improvement or the advancement of one's soul. So, if someone is focusing on Krishna consciousness, like our spiritual masters, for example, the great sannyasis and our spiritual masters, their full time business is Krishna consciousness. They don't know anything other than Krishna consciousness, right? They are surely better than anyone who's doing some social service. Definitely. Yes. They are working so that people can understand their identity and get out of the cycle of birth and death. That is what they're trying to do. But a philanthropist or a altruist or social welfare activist, he's trying to make you feel better. Definitely, he's doing some good job. That is great. But again, these results are not always permanent. How long can you depend on such benefits that is awarded by social activists? It's not something that is permanently going to cure the problem. Hmm. Okay. Next. This is also another famous, well quoted verse by everybody quotes this verse. This is from 11th Canto, chapter 5, verse number 47. Rupa Goswami says, it is said in the Srimad Bhagavatam in the 11th Canto, Deva Shri Bhutaptan Rinam Pitrinam Na Kinkaro Nayam Rini Charajam Sarvatmanaya Sharanam Sharanyam Gato Mukundam Parihrutya Kartam. Another well known verse. It says, the same thing is still more emphatically confirmed in Srimad Bhagavatam in 11th canto, 5th chapter, verse 41, in which Karabhajana Muni addresses Maharaj Nimi. You know, Navayogendras, they met Nimi Maharaj. In the 11th chapter, there is a huge conversation between the Navayogendras and Nimi Maharaj. And there it is said, my dear king, if someone gives up his occupational duties as they are prescribed for the different varnas and ashrams, but takes what? Complete shelter, completely surrendering himself to the lotus feet of the Lord. Such a person is no more a debtor, nor has he got any obligation to perform the different kinds of activities we render to the sages, ancestors, living entities, family, and society members. Nor has he any need to bother executing the 5 kinds of yajnas, the panchasuno, for becoming free from sinful contamination. Because simply by discharging devotional service, he becomes free from all the obligations. Madhavendra Puri prayed like this. Madhavendra Puri was a completely surrendered soul. He was at a great level. We are not Madhavendra Puri. Again, put that in your mind. Madhavendra Puri, he would offer this argya, and after Gayatri would offer argya, and he would say, "What am I doing? All this is, I'm done with you." He tells, "Oh, all these mantras and all, I'm done with you. When I have to chant the holy names, when my mind has to be absorbed in Krishna's activities, I feel all this is um, uh, very frivolous. I mean, it's not something so important." So this was the consciousness of Madhavendra Puri because he was completely surrendered. So a person who's completely surrendered, he has no obligation towards anyone. He doesn't have to worry about pitras, about pitra rana, rishi rana. Like that, we have so many ranas. Rana means debt. We have so many debts. He should not be worried about any sort of obligations. Everything is automatically taken care of for such a soul. So the purport is that as soon as a man takes his birth, he immediately becomes indebted to so many sources. He's indebted to the sages, he's indebted to other living entities, he's indebted to the ancestors, he's indebted to, like that, like he's indebted to many, many people. However, a person who has surrendered to Krishna completely, he doesn't have any debt to anybody. Talking about a Rishi Runa, how we are indebted to these great sages, Prabhupada talks about how through the medium of Vyasadeva, we all got the Vedas. Whatever we have, the Puranas, the Vedas, Vedanta, Mahabharata, Srimad Bhagavatam, we are so grateful to the sages like Vyasadeva and others. There are many other sages like Gautama, Narada, Shankara, so many other great sages who have given us knowledge. We should feel grateful to them. How do we repay our debt to them? By reading and studying these scriptures. That's how we repay our debt to them. Similarly, we are obliged to our forefathers because we have taken birth in a particular family. Therefore, we are indebted to our forefathers. How do we repay the debt? We offer pinda or prasada to them. We offer Vishnu prasada and purify them. That is our business, right? Similarly, People in general, we are also indebted to other living entities, to animals, to friends, to cows, to dogs. They are all serving us. So we have to repay them in some way or the other by feeding them. That's what we do. Not only that, we are also indebted to demigods, just like our forefathers, and we have to repay them accordingly. But if one takes up to devotional service and surrenders completely to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, at one stroke, he has given up his obligations. He's not a debtor because Krishna will completely take care of that. Hmm? That's why Krishna later says in Bhagavad Gita 18.66, Sarvadharman parityajya mam ekam sharanam praja aham tvam sarva papebhyo mokshayishyami ma shucha. He says, give up everything else and surrender unto me only. I give you assurance that I will give you full protection and guard you against all sinful reactions. So, Lord says, don't hesitate. Okay, just give it up. That's all he says. Now, when you say give up the consciousness that you are the doer. That is very important. Some people will give up, but still external, I don't know how to explain this. It's more on a consciousness level. Many of, see, surrender itself is on the level of your intent, is on the level of your consciousness. It is not something external that you do. You may go and pay obeisances and say, oh, I've surrendered everything. But inside you might be harboring so many desires, thinking, I'm the doer. I need this. I need that. I cannot surrender this. I cannot surrender that. It's everybody's story. But surrender is at the level of the consciousness. Okay. Agastya Samhita. In Agastya Samhita, it is said, as the regulative principles of scripture are not required by a liberated person, ritualistic principles indicated in the Vedic supplements are also not required for a person who's fully engaged in the service of Lord Ramachandra. In other words, the devotees of Lord Ramachandra or Krishna are already liberated and they don't have to follow all the rules and regulations that is laid down in the Karma Kanda section of the Vedas. Again, in the 11th canto, Navayogendra's Karabhajana Muni, he addresses Nimi Maharaj. My dear king, a person who has given up the worship of demigods and has completely concentrated his energy in devotional service of the Supreme Lord becomes very dear to the Lord. So, if by chance or mistake he does something that is forbidden, there is no need for him to perform purificatory ceremonies. Prayaschitta is not needed. Because the Lord is situated in the heart, he takes compassion for such a devotee's accidental mistakes, not purposeful mistakes, accidental mistakes, and corrects him from within. So, if a devotee has made a mistake, and he is repenting for it, Krishna, who's as the Paramatma, purifies him. He doesn't have to go through separate atonement. It is also confirmed in Bhagavad Gita, Pichetsu Duracharo, in many places that Krishna takes special interest in his devotees, even if there is a small fall down, he is not neglected by Krishna. Okay, actually, nothing can cause his devotees to fall down. There's no, for a devotee, there's the question. Actually, this word fall down, we should understand it's not like fall down means all gone. It's not like that. It is a slight slip. Like sometimes when you're walking, there is a rock, you trip a little, but it's not that you stopped walking, right? You trip, but then you continue to walk. So that is how devotees are. Krishna is watching out for you. How will he leave you fall down? Falling down to hell and all is not possible for a devotee. Okay, you may trip, but you will start walking by Krishna's mercy. And there we stop. This was chapter number 5. We stop here. We'll take a few questions. I will log off 11:55. Another 10 minutes I have to log off. So if there are any questions or comments, thoughts, realizations, you can go ahead.
Hare Krishna Mataji.
Haribol.
I just had a question about this PDF. It is just as same as the book.
Yeah, same as the book. Only thing is the relevant Sanskrit verses are added. That's all.
Relevant Sanskrit verses means The book.
Wherever Prabhupada has quoted Srimad Bhagavatam 11 point whatever, 25.16 means that verse is just pulled in here. That's all.
Oh, they are not there in the book?
And not in the summary of which is published as Nectar of Devotion. But if you go to Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu original, you will find all this. Okay. And also Srila Rupa Goswami's direct verses are not quoted. But Prabhupada has given a summary study. So this PDF, we can send it on the group. It is there. Mataji, you finished Bhakti Shastri Nectar of Devotion or no?
I did one class before, but I did not give exam.
I see. So, but you have registered for Bhakti Shastri, right?
Yes, Mataji.
Okay. When you study Bhakti Shastri, you will study in great depth and you will go through each of these verses and you'll have to follow the document as well. We'll give you the document.
Thank you, Mataji.
Okay.
So I have Nectar of Devotion, the book. So should I get another one, the original one? Is that what you are
No
saying?
need. Just use, no, just follow what Prabhupada has given. This is just additional for us to relate to the Sanskrit verses.
Yeah.
It's only if you want to connect with the Sanskrit verses, but Nectar of Devotion is completely more than enough. Okay.
Yeah, it was wonderful, Mataji. When the slokas are listed, it's wonderful. Yeah.
It's very, it's easy to study. So that's why we just,
I've posted in the group, Mataji. Hare Krishna, Mataji.
Yes.
Dhanvat pranams, Mataji. Please accept my humble obeisances, Mataji. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. I have one silly doubt, Mataji. Please forgive me for this question.
No, we all have silly doubts only, Mataji. No worries at all. Please tell me, Mataji.
Mataji, for example, now we read, no, Mataji, the whatever we do devotional service, it is not going to vanish. From that point, we will start our bhakti again in the next life. For example, where they will go and take birth, Mataji, in the same. But for Prahlad Maharaj Charitra, we come to know that previous 21 lineage, that. Ancestors, they are get benefit, and after 7 no, next generation also will get benefit. One person is doing bhakti means, so it means, if for example, if I leave this body, present body means, from this lineage only I will get again birth, or some other house, Mataji.
Bhagavad Gita has answered that question. Shuchinam Srimatam Gehe. You will get birth in the house. So if you have practiced devotional service and by chance that early on itself, before you went to a very high advanced level itself, you had to give up this body, then you will take birth in very pious people's home or very rich people's home. Why so? Very pious people who are already Vaishnava, so that you can pick up from where you stopped. Or very comfortable, very well-to-do houses, because you don't have to worry about your basic needs. That is food, shelter, everything is provided. The environment is comfortable for you to continue your Krishna consciousness. If you have, this is what it is. And if you have if you have advanced like a lot, then you will get birth in a very, very, very pious, very advanced Vaishnava's home. And you can proceed from there. You have very less business to finish in this world. So here, see, these are the verses of text number 41, chapter 6. I'll just read the translation for you. The unsuccessful yogi, after many years of enjoyment on the planets of the pious living entities, is born into a family of righteous people or into a family of rich aristocracy. If unsuccessful after a long practice of yoga, then he takes birth in the family of transcendentalists who are surely in great wisdom. Such a birth is very, very rare in this world. So what is our birth, next birth? After practicing little devotional service and more devotional service is mentioned in Bhagavad Gita, chapter 6, verses 41 and 42. You can refer to that. And about Prahlad Maharaj, his ancestors were delivered. It's not that you yourself will be born and your same family to get delivered. It's not like that. You can be born anywhere. Okay?
Anywhere. It's not in the same lineage.
No.
Thank you, Mataji.
It can, if it has to. I'm not saying you'll never be born. It can happen, but it's
Wish not to happen, but we don't. I don't know.
yeah. Don't worry. Yeah.
Thank you, Mataji.
Mataji, I just wanted to add the Bahunam Janma Namante, Gnanvan Mam Prapadyante, Vasudeva
Yeah.
Sarveti, Samahatma Sudurlabha.
Yeah. Such a Mahatma is very rare. Yeah. One who says Vasudeva is everything. Yes. Thank
Hare
you.
Krishna, Priti Vilasini Mataji. Thank you, Mataji,
Hare
for such enlightening class. Hare Krishna, Mataji. Somebody is going ahead. Is anyone having any questions? Mataji, I really apologize and please forgive me that I couldn't join on time, Mataji. I was doing some chores, so totally forgot about today's intro.
Oh,
I'm so sorry, Mataji.
absolutely no worries. We also didn't want to have welcoming. I wanted to start on time, but still I started late. Okay.
Sorry, Mataji. Thank you, Mataji. Thank you. Mataji, I had one question, Mataji. For karma kandis, what you told Mataji, like what are the rules for, to overcome the mistakes and all if they do anything?
They have to go through some atonement. Something will be there, no? For every mistake, there's an atonement, equivalent atonement.
And for
Like sometimes
Gnana
you have to
and
fast. Yes.
Gnana kandis also.
Yeah, for everybody, there's a lot of atonement that they have to go through to correct.
But the one
But
who
for
is
the,
doing bhakti, like they if
you
they
have to
do
do
some
bhakti
mistake
again.
also, they need to continue their devotion in a pure way. Like
That's
don't repeat those mistakes
yes.
and follow the regulative principles given by the acharyas.
That's all. Just follow the instructions. But yeah, follow the instructions and more importantly, continue to do devotional service with full vigor.
Yes, Mataji. Yes. Thank you, Mataji. Thank you for such an enlightening class. So, with your permission, we can
We can
close the
end.
call. Dear devotees, let us pay our obeisances. Pancha kalpata rupyascha kripa sindhubhya eva cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha.
अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद
अनंत
की
कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की जय, श्रील प्रभुपाद की
श्रील
जय,
प्रभुपाद की
नेक्टर ऑफ
जय
डिवोशन की जय, श्री रूप गोस्वामी की जय, एंड हर ग्रेस प्रीति विलासिनी माता जी की
Jai
जय.
Jai. Thank you so
all
much.
glories to all the assembled devotees. Hari Bol.
Jai Shri Prabhupada.